Today's lesson is called How Maui Slowed the Sun. Hello, everyone. My name is Jeff.
My name is Roger, and we've got kind of a traditional story from New Zealand for you today. And this is a story from the Maori, which is the major or the majority indigenous people that lives in New Zealand, or at least were living there when the Europeans showed up. And of course, they've got a great culture with lots of stories and traditions, and we're going to share one with you today. And it's all about this person by the name of Maui. And yeah, the sun was just moving too fast in the sky, so they needed to slow it down.
And Maui did it, apparently. End of story. Well, that would be kind of boring. We do have to actually tell the story. There's a lot to it, and it's a lot of fun. So let's go ahead and let's get started. When we come back from a short break, we will be reading from a story called How Maui Slowed the Sun. So let's go ahead and take that break, and we will be back right after this.
How Maui Slowed the Sun. In the early days of humankind, it was rumored that the time from dawn to dusk in Aotearoa had once been long enough for people to tend to crops and livestock, build houses, prepare huge feasts, and still have time for relaxation, all before the sun went down. But as time passed, the sun grew more confident in its powers and began speeding faster and faster across the sky, shortening the days and leaving people without enough time to finish even basic work before nightfall.
大家好，第一部分我们看到单字 dusk 这个字是名词，意思是黄昏。例如 The farmer works in his field every day until dusk. 那名农夫每天在他的田里工作到黄昏。
Okay, so yeah, you might have this question. Gee, how did the sun slow down? It used to move so fast across the sky, and somebody needed to slow it down. So we're going to tell you how Maui slowed the sun. Let's begin here. It says, in the early days of humankind, it was rumored that the time from dawn to dusk in Aotearoa had once been long enough for people to tend to crops and livestock, build houses, prepare huge feasts, and still have time for relaxation, all before the sun went down. So this was in the early days of humankind. In the old days, they'd say mankind, which refers to all human beings as a group. But that's the word man there. It's kind of sexist, so they've now used the word humankind, so everybody can be included here. And yes, in the early days of humanity, or in the early days of human civilization, it was rumored. People said that the time from dawn to dusk in Aotearoa was really long, and that was long enough during the day for people to get lots of stuff done.
It sounds like the days were really long. People had plenty of time to do all sorts of stuff. Basically, you had enough time to tend to your crops and livestock. You could build houses, eat a bunch, relax. You could do everything. So, long, long ago, the length of days was not a problem, okay? The sun stayed up there in the sky for a long, long time, and boy, could you get a lot of stuff done. But then everything changed, and I guess we'll learn about that next. But for now, boy, do we ever have a lot to talk about. First of all, let's talk about dusk. There's dawn, and then there's dusk. In the morning, just as the sun is rising, and you're in that period of the morning, okay, when you're going from night into day, and the day is just beginning, you call that period of time dawn. Dusk is kind of like the opposite, okay? When the sun is setting, it's going down, and the day is going into the night, that period of time there is called dusk. So here we have those two words, dawn, and then dusk. But that's not all. We've got 3 more vocabulary words to cover in this sentence as well. The next of which is the word livestock.
Livestock, yeah, those are animals that you keep on your farm because you need them for some kind of purpose. They could be cows that you milk for dairy products, or they could be animals like pigs or cows that you kill for the meat. So yes, indeed, they needed to tend to their crops and their livestock. That's stuff that people would do if they lived on farms there. And also, you would need to build your houses, of course, to protect yourself from the elements when you get typhoons or blizzards and things like that. You would also need to prepare huge feasts during the day. A feast is a really big meal, especially for some kind of celebration. Like just a couple of months ago, I'm sure most of you had a New Year's Eve feast for Chinese New Year. You had a big meal with your family. That is your 年夜饭 or your New Year's Eve feast.
Anyways, wow, the days were long. You could tend to your crops. You could prepare huge feasts and still have time to relax. So go ahead, prepare that feast, eat some food, and then also relax afterwards. There's plenty of sunshine. By the way, relaxation, that comes from the verb to relax. When you relax, you kick back and you allow the stress to leave you completely. So before, let's say, you might have been stressed out because of your job. There's so much tension and pressure in your life from your job. So you go home and you turn on the radio or something like that. You listen to some music, you kick back, and you forget everything. And soon you feel better, you feel relaxed, you feel relaxation. And yeah, back in the day there was plenty of sunshine. You could do all of these things and more, all before the sun went down. But as time passed, the sun grew more confident in its powers and began speeding faster and faster across the sky, shortening the days and leaving people without enough time to finish even basic work before nightfall. Oh no, so there's the twist in the story. So before, the sun stayed high up in the sky there for plenty of time, but then the sun said, I'm a powerful being. I'm going to start screaming across the sky. I'm going to go faster and faster across the sky and send you people into perpetual darkness for the most part.
Yeah, so nightfall, of course, refers to the time when night falls, when it goes from day to night, usually after dusk. Okay, that brings us to the end of the first part of our lesson. Let's move on now to the second part. We'll listen to it first.
Maui, a clever trickster with magical powers, became annoyed that it was often too dark for him to see what he was doing. Deciding to take matters into his own hands, he called his brothers to him and said, "Why is it we should be slaves to the sun? The sun should work for us. Let's catch it and teach it a lesson it'll never forget so we can have ample daylight."
第二部分我们看到片语 take matters into one's own hands 表示亲自去处理解决问题例如 The chief of police took matters into his own hands and caught the thief himself 警察局长亲自去处理此事自己去抓那名小偷或是 You are going to have to take matters into your own hands if you want the job done right 如果你想要这份工作正确完成你将要亲自处理再来我们看到单字 ample这个字是形容词指充足的充裕的举例来说 This closet has ample space to fit all of our clothing 这个衣柜有充足的空间可以容纳我们所有的衣服或是 Amy started her project weeks in advance which gives her ample time to work on it Amy 提前好几周开始她的计划因此她有充裕的时间去完成
So, back in the day, wow, there was plenty of sunshine there. People could do anything. They could build houses, tend to their crops and livestock, eat a bunch, relax, no problem. But then the sun got cocky and started speeding across the sky, shortening the days more and more. So this has got to stop, have got to go back to normal. The sun has got to slow down. Who's going to do that? Maui is going to do that. Yes, Maui, a clever trickster with magical powers, became annoyed that it was often too dark for him to see what he was doing. So he was going to take action. By the way, if you're annoyed with something, you're slightly angry with that thing, okay? You might not be mad, but boy, is something aggravating you. Boy, is something irritating you. Like maybe you're in bed and you're trying to fall asleep and there's that mosquito in your room and it keeps on buzzing in your ear. Yes, boy, is that mosquito ever annoying you? So here Maui is thinking, you know what, there's all these things I want to do, and I'm annoyed because all of a sudden it's dark all the time and I can't see what I'm doing. The sun, it needs to slow down. I've got to do something.
Yeah, Maui's a very smart trickster. He's a prankster, and he's got magical powers. But yeah, he's annoyed that the days are too short. So deciding to take matters into his own hands, he called his brothers to him and said, "Why is it we should be slaves to the sun? The sun should work for us. Let's catch it and teach it a lesson it'll never forget, so we can have ample daylight." So again, sometimes you're kind of waiting for somebody else to take care of a problem. Your neighbors are too noisy and you've called the police, but hey, the police just aren't coming. So you decide to take matters into your own hands and go over there and tell them to shut up. Quit making so much noise. We're trying to get some sleep here. So yeah, you're just going to do it yourself and not wait for somebody else to take care of the problem. And so he got together with his brothers and said, yeah, the sun should work for us. We need to catch the sun and teach it a lesson. Okay, if you teach someone a lesson, of course, you basically let them know that what they're doing is wrong and you know what is right, and you give them an example of that so that they never make that mistake again.
Anyways, it says here, let's go ahead and catch the sun so we can have ample daylight. If you have ample daylight, it means you have enough or more than enough of something. That's what the word ample means. Anyways, folks, let's go ahead and take a short break. When we come back, we'll start wrapping up the first part of our story called How Maui Slowed the Sun.
Maui's brothers were understandably skeptical, but Maui seemed quite determined, so they agreed to go along with his plan. The first step, he said, was to harvest enough flax to weave several lengthy ropes. Once the ropes were completed, Maui gathered them together and cast a magical charm over them, granting them extraordinary strength.
第三部分我们看到副词 understandably 指易懂的可以理解的，例如 Ella is understandably sad because her dog was just hit by a car. Ella 很伤心是可以理解的，因为她的狗才刚发生车祸。另外，补充这个字的形容词 understandable, understandable, understandable 指可以理解的。举例来说 The fire caused a lot of destruction, so it's understandable that locals were upset. 那场火势造成大量的破坏，所以当地居民不高兴是可以理解的。接下来我们看到单字 skeptical， 这个字是形容词，指怀疑的，持怀疑态度的。我们可以说 I'm always skeptical about the claims that are made by politicians. 我总是对政客们的言论保持怀疑的态度。或是 Ron was skeptical of his friend's promise to be at the party on time. Ron 怀疑朋友说保证会准时来派对。另外，这个字去掉字尾 al， 就成了名词 skeptic， 意思是怀疑者、怀疑论者。例如 Luke is a skeptic when it comes to believing what is reported in the news. Luke 是个怀疑论者，不会轻易相信新闻上的报道。再来，我们看到形容词 lengthy， 指长的、冗长的。我们可以说 Gina got an A for her lengthy essay on Japanese history. Gina 那篇关于日本历史的长篇报告拿到了 A， 或是 After lengthy meetings about the direction of the company, the president made some announcements. 经过漫长的会议讨论公司的方向后，董事长做出了一些宣告。最后我们看到单字 grant， 这个字是动词，指给予、授予、准予，像是 grant somebody something 就表示授予某人……我们可以说 The mother granted her son permission to go on the ski trip with his classmates. 那名母亲准许她的儿子和同学一起去滑雪旅行。另外补充一个相关片语 granted 或 granting 加 that 子句，表示假设某事为真。举例来说 Granting that he was drunk, his conduct was not excusable. 就算他喝醉了，他的行为还是不可原谅。
Okay, we still have one paragraph to cover here in today's program, but we still have a few minutes to discuss it. We still have ample time to discuss the final paragraph. So let's find out what Maui and his brothers did. They were understandably skeptical. At least Maui's brothers were skeptical. And if you're skeptical, you kind of doubt someone's thinking. Well, you think that maybe somebody cheated in the election, but I'm not so sure you're correct. I'm kind of skeptical. We need to look at the facts and do some research here. And yes, the brothers were skeptical, but it's understandable. Yes, that is a pretty strange idea to catch the sun and teach it a lesson. Can you really do that? We're not so sure.
Your plan sounds a little bit nuts there, Maui. So we doubt you, and also it makes sense for us to doubt you. So here we are understandably skeptical. That's the idea here. But it says Maui seemed quite determined, so they, his brothers, agreed to go along with his plan. The first step, he said, was to harvest enough flax to weave several lengthy ropes. And to reach the sun, those ropes would have to be really, really, really long. But again, this is a story. We shouldn't try to take it too literally. Anyways, if something is lengthy, it is long. Does it have to be long enough to reach the sun, the moon? No, but yes, if something is lengthy, usually it is rather long.
Yeah, flax is a kind of plant. I think it's called yama in Chinese. So yeah, I guess you can make rope using flax. So of course, when you have different fibers of flax, you need to weave them together, and then the ropes will be lengthy. They will be very long. And then once the ropes were completed, once they got them all woven, Maui gathered them together and cast a magical charm over them, granting them extraordinary strength. So remember, Maui is a clever trickster with magical powers. So yes, they have the ropes there. And then Maui cast a magical charm over them. He cast a magical spell on the ropes, and that magical charm would grant those ropes extraordinary strength. Here, the word grant just means to give someone something or to give something to someone, especially if you have the power to give that thing to someone. Like, for example, maybe you'd like to speak in the meeting at your office. And first of all, you need to ask your boss for permission. May I speak? And the boss will say, yes, permission granted.
Yeah, very often in stories, genies might grant you a wish. You ask them for something, and they'll make that thing come true. That thing that you asked for, you now have it because they have granted your wish. But yes, usually these types of things only happen in stories. Anyways, folks, with that, it is now time for us to take a break, and it's time for you guys here to listen to the Chinese teacher.
Hello, 各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。故事一开始写到，在人类早期，传说在奥特亚罗瓦，从破晓到黄昏的时间曾经长到足以让人们做很多事情。那么课文是用到 It was rumored 再加上 that 子句来表达传说怎么样怎么样。那我们来学习这样的用法。好 ，It is rumored 再加 that 子句就表示传说怎么样，谣传怎么样。课文里面只是用过去式来表达。那这个句子呢，也可以写成 Rumor has it 加上 that 子句。其中这个 it 用来代替 that 子句，而名词 rumor 则是表达谣言、传言。举例来说 ，It is rumored that the actress is pregnant。也可以说 Rumor has it that the actress is pregnant。有传言说那位女演员她怀孕了。好，那我们顺便补充其他类似的用法哦。第一个是你可以用 Legend has it 再加上 that 子句来表达传闻怎么样，传说怎么样。其中的名词 legend 在这边表示传说、传闻，它固定要用单数，而且前面不会加定冠词的。好，例如 Legend has it that a fierce dragon once lived in the cave。 传说啊，有一只凶猛的龙曾经住在那个洞穴里面。好，那么第二个补充的是 Word has it 再加 that 子句，表示说听说怎么样，据说怎么样。这个 word 一样不加冠词。好，例如 Word has it that Jake is dating the boss's daughter。 听说啊 Jake 在跟老板的女儿交往诶。好，那在这个例句里面呢 Word has it 其实就会跟 I have heard 我听说什么什么这个意思是差不多的。第三个补充的是 Tradition has it 再加上 that 子句是表达传统上怎么样怎么样。例如Tradition has it that the bride should wear something old, something new, something borrowed, and something blue. 传统上，新娘的身上啊，必须穿戴某一样旧的东西，某一样新的东西，某一样借来的东西，还有某一样蓝色的东西。这据说啊，是为了好运哦。好，那么故事里面的毛衣，他决定要给太阳一个教训。那么第三部分的第一句他就写到说，毛衣似乎心意已决，因此他的兄弟们同意支持他的计划。那这边我们要介绍的是片语 go along。 Go along with somebody 可以表达跟某人一起去。那么在课文里面 go along with 加上名词则是用来表达赞成、支持、同意接受什么什么。举例来说They refused to go along with our plan. 他们不同意支持我们的计划。好，那另外 go along 它也有继续进行的意思哦。那常常会用 as somebody goes along 来表达某人活动进行的过程中。举例来说Please feel free to ask any questions as we go along. 我们在进行的过程中呢，有任何疑问请尽管提出。好，那么以上是今天重点整理，我们来回顾今天的单字吧。
Dusk. After a long drive, Natalie arrived at the city at dusk. Livestock. The farmer moved his livestock into the barn in preparation for the storm. Feast. Eugene prepared a feast for his wife's 50th birthday party. Relaxation. To look after your mental health, set aside some time each day for relaxation. Annoy. Lara annoyed her teacher by asking too many questions in class. Ample. Please don't ask questions during the presentation. You'll have ample time later. Understandably. Hannah was understandably upset when her son lied to her. Grant. After a long application process, Elle was finally granted a work permit.
Well, everyone, today's article has come to an end, and I sure hope you guys enjoyed reading and learning along with us. I am Jeff.
I am Roger.
See you next time.